Welcome to the Startup Grind.
Welcome everyone to the opening event of the third season of Startup Grind Muscatine. It's a pretty exciting thing for us here in town. This is starting our third year. Startup Grind is a global entrepreneurs community where we connect locally and globally with over 300 cities around the world in 150 countries. And in all of those cities, just like we're doing tonight, my colleagues that are at other Startup Grind chapters do the same thing. We have a little meet and greet, and we gather and we get to know one another, and then we have a fireside chat with a local entrepreneur, and then there'll still be more food and drink left over later. And as I like to tell people, that's when the magic really happens, when you hear something from our guest, and then you get to start talking about what's up in your startup journey. So Startup Grind has a purpose of connecting, inspiring, and educating entrepreneurs locally and around the globe. And we have three values. And when I found Startup Grind and said, it's really important that we do this in Muscatine because the values to me connect with who we are in the Midwest and who we are in Muscatine. And those three values are, first of all, is to give before you take, or give more than you take. The second is to make friends, not just contacts. So, a lot of times we go to these events and you exchange business cards and phone numbers, and it's just kind of collecting contacts. But it's really about making connections and making friends and getting something from one another. And then the third goal is to help others before you help yourself. So those are the values of Startup Grind. The other thing that I want to do before I bring our guest up is to say thank you to our local partners, our local hosts that have helped us out. First, we want to say thanks to Alex over here. He's with MPW Cable Channel 9. He helps us with this every month when we do it. He does a great job, so thanks, Alex. I want to thank some of the Muscatine Community College CEO chapters, Collegiate Entrepreneurs Organization. There's 4 students back there that have just decided this semester they really want to launch this and take it over and manage things. So that's pretty cool. I'd say thank you to the venue host, Sunrise River Gallery. I happen to also be a co-owner in this place. So welcome to our art gallery. We're glad to have you here. Drinks are supplied by Neighborhood Marketing, and DeBeats Bistro has supplied our food. So I hope you're all enjoying and having a good time with that. Next month, we will continue Startup Grind, moving it up the street to DeBeats Bistro, and that will be October 24th. It's the 4th Tuesday of the month instead of the 3rd. And our guest next month will be Mike Vondren, who is the founder and CEO of Tag Communications, which is Quad City's largest marketing agency. And so Mike will be able to talk about really how marketing has moved from some traditional approaches to much more digital approach. So that'll be a good one. So please come on back. And of course, we'll have some great food. So with that, before I bring Andy up, our guest for tonight, I'll give you a little bit of intro on who he is and how we met. I connected with Andy and Rebecca Howe at with the new Merrill Hotel, thinking, okay, perhaps we can do some business together through the gallery. And so we met and we got to talking, and I mentioned that I'm involved with the college and Startup Grind, and he said, we'd love to help. So he's here tonight as our guest. Andy, let him talk about a lot of it. Andy MacClellan has spent, is it over 30 years or nearly 30 years? A few years in the hospitality industry. And so he's brought some really great expertise to this new project, this new hotel here in town. So with that, we're going to welcome Andy to the Startup Grind stage with the rousing Startup Grind ovation. Okay, so those of you that are new to Startup Grind, what we do is we call this a fireside chat, and we just simply have a conversation. And I typically will prepare a few sort of starter questions, and then we just talk.
Okay.
Lots of times I'll ask my guests if they got my questions, and they say, "Oh yeah, I got your email, Jim, but I haven't read them." Andy did tell me he at least looked at it. So thank you.
I did.
So the first question that I always like to start with, and I know that reading your bio, you grew up in Mexico City, is
Yes,
that
sir.
right?
Yes.
So I don't know if when you were a kid, you did things like in the U.S., we have a lemonade stand. There's probably something. So my question is, in your background, when you were much younger, what was your lemonade stand of sorts? What was your first startup?
A neighbor and I painted houses, and actually, it's not really called painting; it's called whitewashing. In Mexico, you whitewash over brick. So every 3 or 4 years, you gotta whitewash your fence or your house or whatever, and so that's what we did.
All right. So how old were you when you did that?
About 12, I think, 11 or 12, maybe.
Okay. So from those days, what lessons do you bring to your journey today?
We have to be really nice to your neighbors so that they'll hire you. Because I couldn't drive and didn't have a car, so I had to go. My clients were within walking distance.
Okay.
So that's, you just have to, I guess Lori would probably call it networking. By the way, Lori is our Director of Sales and Marketing for the Merrill Hotel. So I guess, you learn that lesson early on, that you've got to get to know as many people as you can, and eventually that would possibly work into something advantageous.
Yeah, good. All right. Okay, so how's that lead your lemonade stand fast forward to your journey and career in the hospitality industry? What just kind of give us a little brief history of your journey in the hospitality industry. Some of the stops along the way.
Well, I'll just to give you a brief summary of what I've done, and I was fortunate as a high schooler to kind of know what direction I wanted to go into. So I went to a university that had both business and hospitality, so I got a dual degree. And then I started with what is now called Westin Hotels, and I worked my way up for 18 years in that company and became the founder and director of the resort division for Westin. And then I was recruited by what is now Intercontinental Hotels. At the time, they had just bought the brand Holiday Inn Worldwide, and that's when I moved to Atlanta. And we basically started a new company there. We bought it from Kemmons Wilson, who was the founder of Holiday Inn. Then I started my own company. After 21 years in the corporate business, I wanted to become an entrepreneur, and I did, and started buying some hotels and buying management contracts and building the business, mostly 3-star top properties down in the southeast. With the exception of the Sundance Resort, I became a partner with Robert Redford, and we went out and raised money and did the addition and renovation of what is now Sundance Resort, which has been featured, in Architectural Digest and lots of cool places. And then I sold that company, and I became the vice chairman and president of Dulce International. And that company is a conference center, resort, and hotel company. And we basically built that company from 10 properties in the United States to 27 properties in 8 countries. So I moved to Europe because our capital partner was AEW Capital Partners out of Boston. And all of the money that came in from them was to be deployed in Europe. So that's what we did. And after that, I retired from that and started my company back up again 12 years ago. And since then, we've done development, new urbanism communities, development such as this hotel here. We've done management and consulting as well. So, it's been a nice long career. We've seen every aspect of the hotel business, the hospitality business, and
So going from, since I like to talk about startups and entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
that's what we're doing here. Going from the corporate world
Yeah.
into starting your own, the first round,
right.
and then you went back into the corporate world and
Right.
now back into it again.
Right.
First go round, what was it about launching and starting your own business that intrigued you and motivated you to do that?
Well, one was I didn't like the way the corporate world was working. I felt like, particularly at that point in time, there was more emphasis on shareholder value than there was on the customer. And in the hospitality business, the customer really is the essence of the business. So I thought I could do it better, which is kind of an arrogant thought when you think about it. But the reality is that you have the opportunity as an entrepreneur to call your own shots, make your own mistakes. You've got to get capital somewhere, so that's always an issue, and it was for me. And we were able to do it, but it was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. So there were a lot of things that I didn't anticipate that I had to deal with. And then there were other things that really did fulfill the dream that I had in terms of being able to build something. I guess part of being an entrepreneur is building something, creating something, doing something that is beneficial and worthwhile.
Yeah, and you can call it your own.
You can call it your own,
Yeah.
right?
Okay, so as you've kind of given us a bit of a tour around your career, how then has that ultimately led you to Muscatine, Iowa, and the Merrill Hotel property project?
Okay, so we were able to get a reputation of being able to build hotels and resorts and consult and so on and so forth. So I'll just tell you the story of how we got involved with the Merrill Hotel. The Howe family had been doing a lot of work in the downtown area over the last 20 years in terms of renovations and so forth. And they'd had a lot of discussions along with the Meekers about what would be needed to create an economic engine that could be a longer term, a more sustainable type of enterprise that could benefit the community in all aspects of the community. And that was like 4 years ago. So it evolved. Jim Howe called me and said, "What do you think?" And we came and we did a study, and we did a study that really turned out very, very positive for having a hotel. But just to validate that, we then had CBRE, which has a hotel valuation system component called PKF, do a study, and they were actually more aggressive than we were in terms of the viability. In fact, they wanted us to build something larger than what we're building now because they felt that the market was here to do so. But they also felt that there was a good opportunity to create that economic engine. So there is a return on this, but the reality is that the people who have been involved, the Howe family and the other three families in the community that have been a part of this, it's really a labor of love. It's a labor of love of this community, because what this will do, and I'll give you some of the numbers. These aren't my numbers, by the way. These are CBRE numbers, so which is one of the top worldwide consulting companies. Over an 8-year period, this hotel will generate $81 million in the state of Iowa, 550 jobs. Just in Muscatine County, it's $19 million and 200 jobs just for the construction. So what that means to me is that it has a tremendous impact. Not to mention the impact going forward, because it'll turnover revenues of between $6 and $10 million, depending on the year. And when you regenerate those dollars in the community, which they will be, because everyone, all the goods and services and all the labor and everything is coming from this community. You can talk to economists that'll say it doubles or sometimes triples in terms of the effect on a community. So the purpose of doing this is really sort of unfolding in terms of what it will do for the community, what it is doing. Well, so far, I mean, we're spending almost $42 million on the development itself. So I mentioned what that has, what effect that has. Right. But once it gets moving, then you've got a tremendous value going forward, and it's sustainable. We were talking earlier about the hotel industry. It's one of those unusual industries where it's smokeless, number one. It has a very low impact other than to bring people from out of town in. They spend their money and then they leave. And then they go tell 10 people that they liked it, and those 10 people come back. And so it's one of those businesses that has a tremendously positive effect on a community. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, a little bit. And we talked about the big numbers, and we see it all over the place.
Yeah.
How do we relate that to Mr. and Mrs. Joe Muscatine, who doesn't understand the big picture? We talk about economic development and economic engine and things like that. What are the practical applications to, I mean, in terms of numbers of jobs? Let's just talk about jobs. You mentioned the new hotel will generate a couple hundred jobs in Muscatine County alone.
That's just the construction.
That's just construction.
Right.
Okay, so as we talk about the sustainability of
right.
this economic engine, what's that mean down the road?
So there's 50 to 70 jobs per day that are created. And when I say 50 to 70, it depends on whether or not we have a group in-house. If we have a group in-house and we're doing banquets for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, then we're going to expand that number. So that's in terms of jobs, but also it's goods and services. One of the things that we like to say is that we're trying to get. Well, first of all, just if you do the math, we're going to be running say 70-80%, depending on the day of the week. So that means there'll be 70 to 80 at least. If it's just single occupancy, and as you know, that's not always the case, particularly on weekends. If it's just single occupancy, there'll be 70 to 80 additional people coming into town every night, on average, hopefully roaming the streets of Muscatine. And so what that means is that hopefully they're going to be in the restaurants and the bars and the boutiques and using all the services in the downtown area. So that's when you start seeing what the impact is. 70 to 80 people walking around. And for those of you who stay in hotels often, the first night you're probably happy to stay in your room maybe, but the second time you're climbing the walls wanting to get out and do stuff. And so that's what happens. And we have a beautiful walkable community here, and I think that's a really important part. If you're staying at a courtyard on a highway, not a lot of places you're going to be able to go walk. But here, it draws you in. The city draws you in, and that to me is very important. And that's part of what I mean by an economic engine.
Yeah, okay, and I know the first time we met, you were talking about that, and you said, Jim, we're going to push our guests out of the hotel, yes, into downtown.
Yes.
I think it's clear from what you're saying that's a huge focus that you and your team will have.
Yes.
How will you do that? I mean, I look around the room and I know there's some other small business owners here. Mm-hmm. We're already having conversation with you, so we get that, but others may not.
All right, well, let's just get some examples of the kinds of things that the people. First of all, we are going to have a restaurant, but it's going to be a very limited service restaurant, primarily for breakfast. And there aren't a lot of other offerings in town for breakfast. And typically in a hotel, about 80% of the people will have breakfast in the hotel. So beyond that, we'll have limited availability of food for lunch and dinner. But the idea is we are not building a restaurant to compete with any of the restaurants in downtown. We in fact want people to go out and experience the Mexican food, the Italian food, the Debeats, the Tantra, boonies, everything that is here, because that adds to the flavor of the city, and that's part of what we want people to go experience. In addition, we're building a sculpture park that will be very much in keeping with the renovation of the Mississippi Drive, and will also be connected to 2nd Avenue via a walkway to the side of our parking area to, again, make it a walkable community, make it an area where people in the community can enjoy this outside sculpture park and honor some of the sculpture and or artists of the area. We've talked to you about getting art in the facility from local artists. Yep. For example, we've talked to people in town about baked goods. We're not going to not going to make baked goods in the morning every day. We're going to bring them in from the community and so forth. Pest control, cleaning supplies, all those kinds of things are things that we will be buying in the community. So does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, you bet. Okay, so you mentioned local folks, baked goods and things like that. So it kind of takes me to another direction. I know that the Merrill Hotel has partnered with Muscatine Community College in our culinary arts program. So tell us about that relationship and how perhaps there will be other opportunities for other institutions in the city.
I don't think Naomi had been here more than about a week when we started talking. It was shortly after you arrived. But one of the things we had heard from the restaurateurs in town is that they had a hard time finding qualified people to work in the restaurants, whether it was in the culinary area or on the front of the house. And so we immediately talked to Naomi, and we found out the same thing about the hotel side of the business. And fortunately, the university has, the Scott campus already had a culinary and hospitality program up and running. So thanks to Naomi and her team, we were able to put together that kind of a culinary and hospitality program here to not just serve us, but to serve the rest of the community, right. Hotels and restaurants. And we have provided the kitchen and the button factory until the hotel is open, and then we'll move that program into the hotel. So it's not just culinary, but it's also hospitality, and we'll move the, if you want to call them interns, but they're actually going to be employees in the program to be that will have the opportunity to hone their skills in a real live environment, which honestly, having been in a hospitality program, that's really one of the best ways to learn the business. I would say Lori would probably tell you the same. She's been in the business in many different aspects of it, and there's just certain things you're not going to get out of a book.
Right.
So.
Okay, so because this is Startup Grind, and my motivation is to help drive the startup community and the entrepreneurial mindset in Muscatine. A couple of things here. I mean, one is specifically how can the Merrill Hotel connect in that startup community. But maybe let's start with a broader question. I mean, from your perspective, what you've seen in your travels into Muscatine and how our town may compare to other cities similar size or much bigger cities that have thriving startup communities. What do we have here or not have here that you might see that help make Muscatine a potentially strong and thriving startup community?
Well, for one thing, I think we've already got the history. I mean, there's
Right.
tremendous history here. We've got the museum, but we've also got the Arts Center, which is phenomenal.
Right.
And we are going to be working with the Arts Center, by the way, to do some exhibits in the hotel and so forth. Again, to draw people out of the hotel, maybe to get them to the Arts Center, to get them into the galleries. Those are the kinds of things people appreciate, particularly when they can walk to them. You know, that's nice. So you've got history. There are many other, recreational opportunities, and granted, I understand those are seasonal, but with the trails, with all the riverfront amenities, and those that are yet to come, which we understand are going to be forthcoming, those are tremendous opportunities for people who just want to get out of the hotel and enjoy it. The walkability, I think, is probably one of the things that gives us a real leg up, is the fact that you could literally walk to a restaurant or a boutique or bar or whatever. That is just not that common unless you're in a big urban environment. But we're not. It's not like going out in Chicago or someplace like that where it might be a little overwhelming. Here, I think it's a very friendly, walkable community, and to me, that's a huge amenity. We still have things that we need. We're looking for an operator for our spa space, for example, because we think that that's something that both the community could utilize as well as the guests. We are, hopefully we'll have things like walking tours, toys on the river that people can rent, so that they can utilize all the trails and the water and everything else that's available. So there are things like that, great opportunities for entrepreneurs that they could grab a hold of, and we'd be happy to work with anybody on anything that makes a guest stay more comfortable, more exciting, more memorable. We're all over it. And I can't tell you we've figured it all out, but if somebody's got a great idea, then we're all over how to do that.
So once the hotel's up and operating, and we kind of get over that it's the new thing, and it's business as usual. What's on the horizon for the Merrill Hotel then, or where do you see it going to maintain the sustainability of it?
Well, the neat thing about a hotel is that it's ever changing. There's no day, no year is the same. I'll give you a couple of examples. Lori's working on a couple of things right now. One is a film festival, maybe once, maybe twice a year, that we could help co-host, that would bring people in from all over the area, not just Muscatine. So, maybe we get a reputation for having, a great film festival in Muscatine. She's also working with a group for a yoga festival, So again, this is a completely different discipline, completely different thing to a different audience, but it's something that again, if we could be known for those kinds of things. Yes, we'll have weddings, we'll have corporate receptions and meetings and so forth, but we're also open to sports events, these kinds of affinity, I call them affinity groups. Sure. For any kinds of things like that could help us to draw people in. Tourism is kind of a catch-all, so I hesitate to use the word tourism, but we need more tourism here. Right. And the reason I think that it can happen is that we've got so much to offer. Right. Everything from the history to the recreation to the walkability and so forth. There's great reason for people to want to come and stay for a while.
Yeah. So if we're talking about people coming in and staying for a while, maybe coming for a weekend conference, talk about a couple of things for us, please. The first would be just the facilities that you're going to have. Describe that for us, and then the other part would be the size of a meeting or a conference that might come into town.
Okay, so just sort of and I have some flyers that I'll leave on the table here, but the facility itself is 122 rooms and suites. The suites are 2 presidential suites, which go up to 3 bedrooms each, and then we have 14 junior suites, and then the rest are what I would call our standard rooms. However, we are a 4-diamond property, which means that they're very, very nice. They're not overpriced as you might find in a 5-star, but certainly very, very nice guest rooms. So 122 guest rooms. We have a restaurant, which I mentioned is a light fare restaurant. We have a sundries shop, which will have everything from sundries to a grab-and-go freezer, refrigerator, to some gift items, but really kinds of things that Melissa's going to find for us. And then in the lower level as well, we have a full workout room, an indoor swimming pool, and a spa space, which we would love to have someone come in and run for us, which will, by the way, be open to the public to use for a minimal fee for those people who are downtown, want to be able to either work out or swim or whatever in an enclosed environment. We have a full kitchen, which will service the restaurant, but more importantly, which will service the meeting space. So let me talk about the meeting space. We have 12,500 square feet of meeting space. That's a lot, but it's a lot simply because we found that there's a great need for meeting space in this community. What we found is that almost every meeting that occurs, that emanates out of Muscatine, goes somewhere else. So we now have the facilities here. We have a ballroom that's almost 5,000 square feet that will accommodate in rounds, seated rounds, about 372 people. But then there's in a schoolroom set up, close to 500 people. Outside of that ballroom, by the way, and the conference center is on the 6th floor, has magnificent views. All of the rooms have daylight, natural daylight, or they can be darkened. But the big ballroom has a 1,250 square foot terrace, which is about 10 feet deep. So you can put tables and chairs out there when it's good weather, and it's all glass enclosed, so you get to see the view at all times. And we are going to be doing tours, by the way, so we'd be happy to take you up there. So what did I miss, Lori, in terms of the facility? We have the sculpture garden I mentioned.
Sure, and you mentioned the little breakout rooms too that we have.
Oh, smaller breakout rooms, right? Which means that breakout rooms means for smaller meetings, or if you're in a large meeting and then you're breaking it up into smaller groups, we have those rooms available as well. Forgot to mention the parking garage, the parking deck, which will occur right out in front of the museum on 2nd Street, and it'll have 109 spaces, which will quadruple the amount of spaces that were there prior to now. So we will be adding parking to downtown, which is, if you've tried to park recently, you understand that will really be helpful. So what else did I miss? Anything else? Yeah. So it's a full service conference center hotel. Having said that, it's not just for conferences. We expect our weekends to be very much couples and families and weddings and reunions and those kinds of things. The corporate business will be pretty much during the week, Monday through Thursday. Yes, Greg?
You didn't mention the deck, and I was curious. I'm sorry.
The deck, the terrace out in front, yeah. And the thing about, here's another thing about Muscatine, that if you grew up here, you just sort of accept it, I guess. But for people that come in from outside of Muscatine, you have one of the most beautiful views of the Mississippi River than most cities on the river. It's unobstructed. What's across the river is floodplain. It's not going to be developed. So it's a gorgeous view. You go upriver and you've got that pretty bridge, go downriver, and it's just a very pristine, beautiful view, not to mention the whole riverfront, which is very inviting for the community. So those are things, and I'm rambling now,
No,
but
that's great.
those are things that we feel are really set us apart from other communities, whether they're large communities or small communities, to be honest with you.
How far away do you think you will draw meetings? If it's a affinity group conference, sort of a thing? Where are they going to be?
Well, I'll say what I think, and then I'll defer to Lori because she's pretty familiar with the market. But for all the communities that people are going to now, I think are communities that will come here. And I'll mention a few: Burlington, Iowa City, certainly the Quad Cities. Right now, a lot of the meetings that emanate out of here, whether it's companies or weddings or whatever,
Right.
are going to those communities.
Okay, so before I open it up to a Q&A for both you and Lori, I always like to end this part of the event with my question is just simple. What's the worst part about being an entrepreneur, and what's the best part about it?
The worst part is you're responsible for everything. The best part is you're responsible for everything. I don't know.
That's yeah, and that's a pretty. I don't know about a standard answer, but I get that a lot.
The buck stops right there.
Yeah.
And you're an entrepreneur. You understand that's it. But that's also the good part about it is that you do have more freedom. You have, you may have boards that you work with. You may have partners you work with, which is fine. But it is different than the corporate world where, things are pretty well set and you're kind of, confined. And I think to me, the best part is being able to be creative.
Right.
In
In a lot of ways.
a lot of ways.
Yeah. Okay. Let's open the floor to some questions for Andy. I see Paul way in the way back.
Yes, thank you for dropping $19 million into the lap of these wonderful people here. My question is, whenever there's money coming in, there's always governments that are going to want a piece of the pie, if we will. Has the city and county of Muscatine been very cooperative in helping you with this, welcoming into our community, or have they been a stumbling block?
I'm really glad you mentioned that because I had not really talked about the capital structure. Back when we started this, and think back 4 years ago, we were in the recession, and financing a hotel was basically impossible in a traditional way. I mean, it wasn't a matter of going to a bank or a consortium of banks, or it wasn't possible to go to even real estate investment groups because they weren't lending. I mean, it was not a great time. One of the things you were talking about being creative. One of the things that we found out about was a program that the state of Iowa had. It's called the Iowa Redevelopment District. We found was a program that they had just started. And we did an application to that program, and we made the first cut. And then we had to go back and do another application. And the city of Muscatine worked with us, as did Greg. And it was a joint effort. And what we got from that was a $10 million grant over 20 years. And basically, it's a rebate on hotel motel tax over that period of time, and then it falls off. But that was a big boost for us in terms of being able to get, a sponsorship, if you will, from the state. And then the city was extremely helpful in doing a TIF for us. It was a property tax TIF over a certain period of time. So right out of the gate, we had great cooperation from the state, city, and that I think is probably what encouraged all of the equity partners to get involved as well, because they saw that there was this tremendous opportunity. And so if you look at it in that way, we have very little traditional bank debt on the property because of these programs. And that means a lot, in a development. So I don't know if it answers your question, but we've had excellent, in my opinion, excellent support from all aspects, whether it's been the chamber or the city or the state. I think we've really had tremendous support.
You know, you've done this hospitality industry, been in the industry for a long time now. Back when you were our age or younger, what set you apart from going somewhere else than going to the hospitality? What was that driving factor that put you into this industry?
That's a good question. I think maybe growing up in Mexico and having family in the U.S., we traveled simply because we wanted to visit my mother's family, and it just exposed me to the hotel business, and I just liked it, and my mother said I had to do it. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I enjoyed it, and I think it's, I like for people to enjoy themselves, to have a good time. I like to serve people, and I think that's part of the attitude, is that you want, it's sort of a servant mentality.
Not only of the hospitality, but just as an entrepreneur in general, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Joel?
Yeah, Andy, I know you and I have had a chance to talk about this, the foreign investment side of the Merrill Hotel. I believe
Yes.
there may be some misconceptions in
Right.
the public as to that. I know that there are $2 million roughly from the China Window Group who were invested in the hotel. What is the relationship with that organization and the Merrill Hotels? We do know that most of the organization has truly been the local Howe family and the other members of the community.
That's you just said it. There are, and I don't think I'm speaking out of school, but the Howe family have been the lead investors. They conceived of the idea, and along with them, we've just been blessed in this community to have not only people like the Howes, but the Steins and the Kents and the China Window folks. So, albeit they're minority investors, they are part of this community, and they are not part of the Chinese government. They're individual investors, and they've made other investments here as well. But so that's the relationship. Yep.
Jeff?
We've got a certain mix of restaurants, boutiques. You've also mentioned some businesses we don't have, like toys down on the river and that kind of thing. As a percentage, what does our restaurant mix look like right now? Boutique mix look like right now? And where does it need to be to support the hotel?
Well, just in the last several months, the restaurant has gotten a lot better. I mean, there are 4 new restaurant and or food facilities that at least I'm aware of that are either on or about to come on. And I'm not sure I can name them all by name, but there's another Mexican restaurant, another Italian restaurant. We've got the bakery in the Italian restaurant in the Pearl View condos, the bakery there, and I've missed one other one. In Chestnut. Where is it? There you go. Yes. So that's great news to us, to the fact that there are more offerings, more venues. I will tell you, as a frequent visitor, Mondays are really tough around here. Finding a place to eat, if you don't live here. So if it weren't for Boonies and a couple of other places, there aren't a lot of places to eat. So those are the kinds of things we've got to get over, because we'll have full house on Monday night, typically. In a corporate hotel, and they're going to have a place to eat, and like I said, we're going to have a very limited menu, so we'd rather have them going out into the community and trying the various restaurants in town. We'll have a number of people that will be here in excess of 2-3 nights, and they're going to not want to eat in the same place every night, so they're going to want a variety. And the corporate business is Monday through Thursday, so those folks are probably going to be in meetings most of the day. They'll have some time at lunch, and they may have an organized lunch, or they may be out in the community. They are going to be mostly available after 5 o'clock. And that would be for goods and services, that would be for bars and restaurants. So yes, those places will have to be open, after they're not in meetings. Weekends are completely different. I think weekends you're looking at from Friday afternoon through Sunday at a pretty steady pace. Would you agree with
I
that?
would agree. Yep, that's the typical timeline as well.
Yeah.
Unless there was some sort of convention that we were to book that would have spouses or something that would be in Wednesday. But again, it can be during the week.
And so, are you gonna have maybe a communication, like a thing that you put out to the businesses where you say, we've got a convention coming into town, maybe a month ahead of time, where you let us know, well, maybe we should staff for this weekend because it's gonna be a big
Well,
event.
that's-
So that we know what's going on.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm not sure we've set that up yet, but between the chamber, the CVB, and Lori, yeah, that is a good point. We should be communicating that sort of thing, because there will be. Is Jody still here?
She's here. Aren't you glad you came, Jody?
Yeah. There will be some groups that Jody will organize and spread around, or there will be some that we might just have in town. But that's a good point. We need to communicate to you when we've got an in-house group of maybe 100 rooms or less, that just so that you know it and we can get it out to your membership. I think that's a very good point.
Because for someone like me, that could influence.
Yeah.
Because I'm a small fry, I would have to know, do I need to order a big inventory this week?
Well, the other thing is that we have a concierge that we're going to have on full time, and so that would be another person that you would want to liaise with to make sure that they are aware of your hours, your goods, your services, so that when they're questioned about whatever it might be, that but you and several other people in town.
Dan's got one.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned 4 diamonds.
Yes, sir.
What's the difference between diamonds and stars, and who does these ratings, and what does it take to keep up 4 diamonds?
Okay. Well, that's a loaded question. All right, so there's 2 different rating agencies, if you will. One is called the Forbes Group, and those are stars. It used to be the mobile stars, and they were bought out by Forbes magazine. And so they're stars. Then they're from 1 to 5 stars. The diamonds are AAA. So AAA has 1 to 5 diamond. We have sort of hitched our trailer to AAA because they're much more concise about what the specifics should be for a 4 diamond property. If you can go on their website and you can see exactly what it is that you're going to get in a 4 diamond hotel, and basically what it is, it's a very, very nice guest room without the price tag. There are a few other things that you get in the 5 diamond hotel room that we won't have, but they're really over the top things that most people don't use, and generally most people don't want to pay for. So that's the difference. So we've, many people are maybe members of AAA. It's a very good standard to go by. The other rating, the star rating, has fumbled a little bit with their change in ownership, and it's not as prevalent, particularly for this product in this market as a diamond rating. So that's what we've aligned ourselves with. Does that?
So what about keeping it up?
Keeping it up.
You're gonna get
Oh, well, they
out of the
do.
box and-
Yeah, no, they do inspections without us knowing, and they come in and then they'll give us a report and they'll say, you did well here, and there, but you got to improve over here, or whatever it might be. So what they look at is everything from the facility to the service. So we could have a 5 diamond facility and have lousy service and not get our mark because of the service. So we've got to maintain a 4-diamond level of service as well as keeping the facility at a 4-diamond rate. Is that what you were asking?
Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Joel, I think the question that a lot of us have is target date for opening the doors.
And thank you all for coming. Yeah. That's like predicting the weather. No, we have a pretty good idea. We're looking at a soft opening around mid-February right now. Now that could improve, and I say that only because if you've been watching the masonry work, they're going a lot faster than we thought they were going to. So it's hard to tell. And the garage is going to be finished probably 2 months before, right?
Should be.
I put you on the spot. Yeah. So, but yeah, seriously, I think that we're looking at a soft opening in mid-February. Now, what does a soft opening mean? What that means basically is that the entire lobby will be done. It means the 6th floor will be done. The 5th floor, which supports the 6th floor in terms of meeting space, et cetera, and it has all of our suites on it. And then the 4th floor is a regular guest room floor. So that would give us 60 guest rooms, all of our meeting space, and the lobby, which would include the indoor pool, spa, restaurant, et cetera. The other 2 floors, which would be the 2nd and the 3rd floor, would come on in increments of 2 weeks. So by the middle of March, we'd be completely open. That can all change and happen quicker, but we're not saying it's going to be much before that. And weather's really not going to affect us at this stage because we are totally enclosed now. So cold weather is not going to be our problem this year. It was last year, but not this year. So.
Any other final questions for Andy? Yes, sir.
Yeah, on the weekends, maybe one area of leakage to other hotels would be sporting events, because Muscatine does host regional soccer and
Yes.
softball. And so are you thinking that might be part of another draw?
Yes.
Absolutely, and that's we're delighted that Jody is in the position that she's in, because that really gets into citywide groups. Sports events are tremendous, but they will fill up not only us, but I don't know. What do you estimate for the soccer, some of the soccer events, and for the bowling tournaments and so forth? How many rooms are you talking about for those?
It just depends on the tournament, but like this weekend, I believe there's 60 teams here. College Search, I think that was 1,200 folks in town, and obviously we'd like to accommodate every one of them in every single hotel room and bed and breakfast that we have.
So 1,200 people. Are you thinking double occupancy or 600 rooms?
They couldn't all stay here. They,
right.
Had to
So
stay
that's
out of
more than
town.
what we can accommodate here.
But if we could fill as many rooms as possible, if we could
Yeah.
accommodate as many people as possible, that would be optimal.
Yeah. So I don't know if that answered your question, but now we have an opportunity because we have a few.
Just the business during the week.
Right. And now, in addition to having more guest rooms in town, we have the conference center. So hopefully that'll make it easier for the CVB to sell the community, to groups that maybe we wouldn't have been able to sell to before.
All right, we have one more question. Anybody else? All right. So, Andy, I do this every month.
Yeah.
So Steve Jobs had a quote where he said, "I just want to put a ding in the universe."
Yes, sir.
So I like to put this together and say, thank you
Well,
for
thank you very
sharing
much.
your ding.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you. It's very nice. Thanks. I appreciate it. I hope that went okay. All right. Thank you. Very cool.